The Bold and the Beautiful. Carter faces the end. Hope's unbreakable choice and a love born from despair. The latest chapter of The Bold and the Beautiful has delivered one of the most emotionally shattering twists in recent memory, sending ripples through the Forrester world and turning familiar relationships inside out. In an episode that began with quiet tension and ended in tears, Carter Walton, the steadfast, loyal, moral center of the Forrester family, received a diagnosis that would change everything. After a routine medical check turned into a nightmare, Carter learned that he was suffering from terminal cancer. The revelation didn't come with melodrama or loud music. It came with silence, the kind that suffocates, the kind that makes every heartbeat louder than a scream. When the doctor broke the news, Carter sat frozen. His mind refused to process the words, stage for cancer, no surgical options, no guarantees. Time, uncertain and cruel. He managed to nod, to thank the doctor, to hold himself together just long enough to walk out of the examination room. But the moment the door closed behind him, his composure crumbled. The man who had built a life on strength and control suddenly broke apart in the middle of the hallway, his tears silent but unstoppable. He tried to cover his face, tried to hide from the world, but fate, or something like it, had other plans. Hope Logan happened to be there. She had come to the same clinic for a follow-up on a minor injury, distracted, her thoughts still entangled in her endless push and pull with Liam. But when she saw Carter, shoulders shaking, eyes wet with despair, everything else fell away. Hope didn't hesitate. She rushed to him, calling his name, her voice full of alarm and compassion. Carter tried to stand, tried to pull himself together, insisting he was fine, just tired, just dealing with some bad news from a client. But Hope saw through it immediately. She touched his hand, gently forcing him to meet her eyes, and that was all it took for the dam to break. In a trembling voice, Carter confessed everything: the diagnosis, the prognosis, the terror, the fear that he wouldn't have time to make peace with his life. The fear that every plan he had made, every dream he had built, was collapsing before it could even take shape. And underneath it all, the deepest fear of all, the fear of becoming a burden. "I've always been the strong one, Hope," he whispered, voice cracking. "I've always been the man people lean on. But now I don't want to be the man everyone feels sorry for. I don't want to make anyone's life smaller because mine is ending." Hope, tears welling in her own eyes, didn't speak at first. She just wrapped her arms around him. No words, no promises, just presence. The hallway was silent except for his sobs. The world had fallen away, leaving only two people in the rawest moment of their lives. In the days that followed, Hope couldn't get Carter out of her mind. She thought about the fear she had seen in his eyes, the way his hands had trembled when he said the word cancer. It wasn't pity she felt. It was connection. The kind of connection that strips away everything false and leaves only truth. She visited him the next day, bringing coffee and a soft smile, pretending it was just a friendly check-in. Carter tried to deflect again, but this time he didn't have the strength. They sat for hours, talking about nothing and everything. About work, about family, about the strange cruelty of time. Hope listened as Carter opened up about his regrets, the things left unsaid, the love stories that never quite lasted. At one point, he laughed bitterly. "I spent my whole life doing the right thing, Hope, being loyal, dependable, clean. And now that I'm running out of time, I realize how much I didn't live. How many moments I let pass because I was too busy being perfect." Hope looked at him and said softly, "Then don't stop living now." From that moment, something shifted. Hope started spending more time with him. Small gestures at first, bringing him lunch, helping him with hospital paperwork, sitting beside him during treatments. She kept her distance from Liam, avoiding his calls, ignoring his questions. When he confronted her, demanding to know why she was suddenly disappearing, she told him the truth, that Carter needed her, and she wasn't going to abandon him. Liam, shocked and confused, tried to argue that this wasn't her responsibility, that she was getting too emotionally involved, but Hope didn't waver. "This isn't about responsibility," she said. "This is about compassion. About not walking away when someone is falling apart." Carter resisted at first. He didn't want her pity. He didn't want to pull her into his pain. But as his treatments began, and the fatigue set in, and the good days grew fewer, her presence became the one constant he could depend on. Hope was there when he was too weak to stand. She was there when he woke up in the middle of the night, gasping from pain or nightmares. She was there when he started to laugh again, quietly, surprised that he still could. Their bond deepened into something unspoken but undeniable. It wasn't a romance built on desire. It was built on survival, on two people holding each other through the darkness. Hope found peace in caring for him, in being needed in a way that had nothing to do with her complicated past or her failures with Liam. And Carter found grace in her presence, a reminder that love could still exist even in the shadow of death. One night, as they sat on his balcony watching the city lights, Carter turned to her with a faint smile. "You should go home, Hope. You have a life to live." She shook her head. "This is my life right now, and I'm not leaving." He looked at her, eyes wet, and said, "I don't want you to watch me fade." Hope's voice was steady. "Then don't fade. Fight." Carter did fight. He went through every treatment, every painful session, every wave of nausea and exhaustion, with Hope beside him. She read to him when he couldn't focus. She held his hand during scans. She laughed at his jokes, even when he was delirious from medication. And through it all, she refused to let him give up. But the toll on her was heavy. Liam couldn't accept it. Brooke tried to be supportive, but warned her not to lose herself in someone else's suffering. Even Ridge and Steffi grew concerned, worried that Hope's devotion was pushing her to emotional collapse. But Hope stood firm. "Carter doesn't have anyone else," she told them. "He's always been there for all of us. It's time someone's there for him." As the weeks passed, Carter's condition worsened. His doctors gave him options: experimental trials, risky procedures, painful extensions of borrowed time. He refused. He wanted dignity, not desperation. Hope was there the day he made that choice, sitting quietly beside him as he signed the forms. He told her, "I want to spend whatever time I have left living, not fighting to stay alive." And she promised him she'd make sure every day counted. They traveled together, small trips, nearby places. The beach, the mountains, places Carter loved but had never really taken the time to see. He told her stories about his childhood, his dreams of being more than just a lawyer. Hope painted with him one afternoon, laughing as he made a mess of the canvas. "I was never good at art," he joked. "Always afraid to make a mistake. Then make as many as you want," she said. "You've earned it." The connection between them became something more profound than either expected. It wasn't romantic in the traditional sense. It was something quieter, deeper, more real. It was two souls finding peace in each other when everything else was falling apart. The day Carter finally collapsed, it was Hope who caught him. She was there in the hospital, holding his hand, whispering that he wasn't alone. He smiled weakly, whispering, "You gave me back my hope." And she replied, through tears, "You gave me mine." The diagnosis had stolen his time, but it hadn't stolen his humanity. And Hope, who had spent years searching for purpose in a world of betrayal and heartbreak, finally found hers, not in romance, not in validation, but in compassion. In a series defined by power struggles, secret affairs, and corporate wars, this storyline stripped everything down to what matters most: life, love, and the courage to face the end with grace. Carter's battle wasn't about victory. It was about peace. And Hope's decision to stay by his side wasn't about duty. It was about love, pure, selfless, transformative love. When the credits rolled that night, audiences were left breathless. Not because of a scandal or a twist, but because the bold and the beautiful had reminded everyone watching that even in the darkest hour, hope still finds a way to shine. The bold and the beautiful, Hope's silent sacrifice, Liam's suspicion, and Carter's hidden love. The emotional current sweeping through The Bold and the Beautiful has shifted again, pulling its core characters into a quiet but devastating triangle that has nothing to do with infidelity, betrayal, or business power plays, but everything to do with time, mortality, and love left unspoken. Hope Logan, caught between the man she has known for years and the man she never expected to matter this much, is now living a secret that could shatter more than one heart. After Carter Walton's shocking diagnosis stage for terminal cancer, Hope made a decision that changed the course of everything. The news crushed her. It wasn't just the weight of watching someone she cared for fall apart. It was seeing one of the strongest, most selfless men in her life suddenly vulnerable, terrified, and alone. In the aftermath of that hallway breakdown, after she had held him while he cried, after she had promised him he wouldn't face this alone, something in Hope shifted permanently. She knew what she had to do. Hope had been on the verge of reconciling with Liam. They had started talking again, slowly. She had even begun to imagine rebuilding their life together, putting the mistakes and emotional fractures behind them. They had been circling each other like magnets, cautious, bruised, but familiar. And Liam was ready. He wanted her back. He thought the door was reopening. But the night before their planned dinner, the one where Hope was supposed to tell Liam her decision, she stood by Carter's bedside as he suffered through another wave of pain. He tried to laugh through it, to act strong, but she saw it all. The flicker of fear, the way his eyes avoided hers when the nurse entered, the shame he carried like armor. And in that moment, Hope knew she couldn't leave him. She couldn't turn away from someone whose entire world was disintegrating right in front of her. The next morning, she called Liam. "I need time," she said softly. "Just a little more time to figure out what I want. Please don't ask me why. I just need space." Liam, blindsided, tried to stay calm. He said he understood, but the confusion in his voice was impossible to miss. She had been the one moving toward him. She had been the one initiating conversation, dropping hints, revisiting old memories. And now, without warning, she was pulling away. What Liam didn't know, what no one knew, was that Hope was sacrificing her own clarity, her own path forward, for Carter. And Carter. He didn't know either. Not the whole truth. He only knew that Hope had been there since the diagnosis. Every step. She had refused to walk away, refused to let him suffer in silence. At first, Carter had convinced himself that her presence was out of kindness. Hope had always been compassionate, always sensitive to the pain of others. But the longer she stayed, the deeper the connection became. She started anticipating his needs before he could voice them. She started staying through the night when the pain was unbearable. She held his hand during treatment, whispered encouragement into his ear when he trembled with exhaustion, brought him books, memories, quiet comfort. But still, Carter said nothing. He couldn't. Admitting what was growing between them felt selfish. He was dying. He didn't want to taint Hope's life with the weight of his mortality. He couldn't ask her to fall in love with a countdown. So he stayed silent, burying his feelings beneath soft smiles and thank yous, afraid that speaking his truth would make her disappear. But inside, Carter was spiraling. The illness wasn't just eating at his body, it was gnawing at his peace. And the fear wasn't just death. It was, what if I die without telling her? It was, what if I mean more to her than I realize, and I never find out? At the same time, Liam's suspicion began to grow. The longer Hope delayed, the more confused he became. She wasn't cold, but she wasn't present either. Their conversations were shorter. She avoided talking about the future. She always had a reason to reschedule, to retreat, to say soon, not now. He started to wonder, was there someone else? He considered Thomas, briefly. That history had always made him uneasy. But Thomas wasn't around anymore, and the distance between them was clear. Then his thoughts landed somewhere unexpected. Carter. Liam had noticed how close they had become. The way Hope had mentioned visiting him. The way she softened when she spoke his name. Carter had always been loyal, professional, distant, but lately something about their dynamic had changed, and Liam couldn't ignore it. When he confronted her, she didn't lie, but she didn't tell the full truth either. "He's going through something," she said, "and I'm trying to be there for him. That's all." Liam nodded, but the doubt in his eyes remained. "And what about me?" "About us?" Hope hesitated, then answered quietly, "I care about you, but right now my heart's somewhere else." She didn't say the name. She didn't have to. Back in Carter's world, the days were getting harder. He masked it well, but the pain was increasing. So were the tests, the appointments, the decisions. The doctors began urging him to begin palliative measures. But Carter, still fighting, still clinging to the moments with hope, refused. "I'm not giving up yet," he said. "Not while I still feel something worth fighting for." Hope noticed the change. He was more tired, more reflective. He started asking about her childhood, her dreams, her regrets. She realized he was trying to know her as deeply as possible while he still could, and she let him in. One night, as they sat watching old family videos, she had brought over Hope laughing beside him, Carter holding her hand without even realizing. He turned to her and whispered, "I don't want you to wait for someone who's leaving." She turned to him, eyes glassy. "What if I'm not waiting? What if I'm already here?" He didn't reply. He couldn't, because what he wanted to say was, "I love you." But the words sat like stone on his tongue. And Hope, she already knew. She had seen it in every small gesture, every look, every quiet moment they shared in the shadow of time. And it terrified her because she didn't know if she could live through another heartbreak. But more than that, she was afraid of not living through this love at all. The connection between them had gone beyond labels, beyond logic. It had become elemental. It wasn't built on flirtation or chemistry. It was built on survival, on presence, on finding someone to hold in the dark. Meanwhile, Liam was unraveling. He started pressing harder, demanding answers. He confronted Brooke, asking what she knew. He started checking Hope's location, trying to catch her in a lie. And when he saw her leaving Carter's home late one evening, hair disheveled, eyes red from tears, he knew. He didn't need confirmation. He saw it in her face, the tenderness, the sorrow, the guilt. Liam didn't say anything that night. He just drove away. And Hope, she sat beside Carter until he fell asleep, then whispered the words he was too afraid to say. "I love you. I know you're afraid. So am I. But I'm not leaving." The question now isn't whether Hope and Carter love each other. The question is whether they'll have time to live it. As the bold and the beautiful edges toward its next seismic shift, one truth is clear. This story isn't about who ends up with who. It's about who shows up when everything falls apart. And in the quiet spaces between life and death, love has never felt more real, the bold and the beautiful. Hope at the crossroads, between Carter's darkness and Liam's light, in a story arc that has redefined emotional gravity on the bold and the beautiful. Hope Logan now stands at the most painful, defining crossroads of her life. Torn between two men, to futures and to truths, Hope is being pulled by a storm of conflicting forces: love and guilt, duty and desire, sacrifice and survival. As Carter Walton quietly battles terminal illness and Liam Spencer waits with growing confusion and frustration, Hope must finally decide: will she fight for someone who may not survive, or reclaim a future with someone she once believed was her forever? It began with compassion. After Carter's terminal cancer diagnosis, Hope couldn't look away. She couldn't detach herself from the quiet pain of a man who had always been stoic, reliable, solid. Seeing him fall apart, vulnerable, raw, afraid, unlocked something in her. She stayed, not because anyone asked her to, but because she felt it was right. And in those early days, as she helped him through treatments, held his hand through scans, and stayed awake during his sleepless nights, she told herself it was only temporary, just until he stabilized, just until he could stand on his own. But nothing about this was temporary. The more time she spent with Carter, the more their connection deepened. His strength, even in weakness, his quiet dignity, his gratitude, his honesty about death, about regret, about loneliness. Hope found herself leaning on him emotionally in ways she never expected. He was dying, yes, but he was also teaching her to live, to be present, to feel every moment as if it mattered, because it did. And Carter, despite the pain and the fear, began to feel alive again, not because of treatments, but because Hope was beside him. She gave him more than comfort. She gave him hope, and he loved her for it, silently. But outside their quiet sanctuary of care and connection, the rest of Hope's life was unraveling. Liam, increasingly confused and frustrated, began demanding answers. He didn't understand. They had been moving forward again, reconnecting, rebuilding trust. And then, without warning, Hope had shut the door not completely, but enough to keep him in the dark. She gave vague answers. She avoided intimate conversations. She stopped showing up. Every time he tried to reach her, she was busy. Helping a friend, she said. Sorting through things, but Liam knew better. He sensed something deeper was going on. Something she wasn't saying, something she couldn't say, and his suspicion began to fester into resentment. He confronted her again and again, but Hope remained evasive. She didn't want to lie, but she couldn't bear to speak the full truth either. How do you tell the father of your children that you're in love with a dying man? The pressure intensified when family entered the picture. Brooke, watching her daughter drift further away from Liam, urged her to come back to solid ground. He's your husband, Brooke said, your partner, your future. What you have with Carter, it's rooted in sympathy, in crisis. When that fades, what's left? Ridge, too, joined the chorus of concern. Hope, you've built a life with Liam, a home, a family. Carter is a good man, but he's not your forever. Even Katie, sympathetic to Carter's condition, warned her gently. Be careful, Hope. You're giving so much of yourself right now. Don't lose everything. Hope heard them all. And yet, she couldn't pull away. Each time she tried to step back from Carter to give him space, he would tell her, "You've already given me more than I deserve." And that broke her, because deep down, Carter believed that he was stealing something from her, that he was the reason her future with Liam was slipping away, that he was tethering her to grief when she could be building joy. And it crushed him. I don't want to be the reason you walk away from your life, Carter told her one evening. You have so much ahead of you. Children, a career, a husband who's waiting. I don't have time to offer you anything except sadness. And you deserve more. Hope sat silently, staring at him. You gave me more than sadness. You reminded me what love really looks like. But even as those words escaped her lips, the reality pressed in harder. Liam wasn't waiting forever. And the longer she stayed silent, the more damage she was doing not just to him, but to herself. She began to feel the weight of two worlds crashing against each other. In one world, there was Liam, predictable, stable, flawed, but familiar. In the other, there was Carter, fleeting, fragile, but filled with raw truth. And for the first time, Hope admitted to herself that she couldn't have both. Carter, sensing her conflict, tried to pull away. He became colder, distant, insisting she didn't need to be there every day. He told her he was getting stronger, that the doctors were hopeful about a clinical trial, that maybe he'd been wrong about how little time he had. But Hope saw through the lie. His body was failing. The trial was a long shot at best. And he wasn't pushing her away because he didn't want her, he was doing it because he loved her. One night, he finally confessed, I love you, Hope. I didn't plan it. I didn't want it. But it happened. And I've been trying to hide it because I don't want to ruin your life. I don't want to take you away from a future you've fought so hard to build. But I also can't pretend anymore. If this is all I get, if this is the end, I want you to know I loved you. Hope didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just took his hand and laid her head against his chest. And in that moment, she knew the decision was coming. She could feel it rising like a wave. She would either stay and risk drowning in sorrow or walk away and never feel love like this again. The next day, Liam showed up at her door. "I need to know," he said. "Do you still want this? U.S. Because I can't keep waiting for you to figure it out. I deserve an answer." And Hope, trembling, replied, "I don't know what I want. I just know that if I walk away from Carter right now, it will destroy me." Liam stared at her, heartbroken. "So you're choosing him. I'm choosing to be there for someone who needs me. I don't know if that's love or loyalty or something else, but I can't abandon him." Liam left in silence. Now, Hope faces the choice no one can make for her. Does she choose responsibility staying beside a man she loves deeply but will lose soon? Or does she choose a chance at a stable life with a man who's offering her a future? Carter, meanwhile, continues to wither slowly under the weight of pain, both physical and emotional. He knows time is running out. He watches Hope sleep beside his hospital bed and wonders if keeping her there is selfish. He questions every moment, every smile, every hand she holds, wondering if her heart is breaking in silence. Hope is breaking. Each day she spends with Carter makes it harder to imagine life without him. But each time she sees Liam's name flash on her phone, she remembers the life that's waiting, the one she built with love and time and children. She is standing in the middle of a battlefield where no outcome feels like victory. Only the bold and the beautiful could deliver such a raw, aching story, one that doesn't rely on deception or betrayal, but the devastating cost of human love in the face of death. And soon, Hope must choose between a man who gave her everything and won't live long enough to keep giving, and a man who's ready to build a lifetime if she can only turn around and walk back. No matter her choice, someone will be left behind. And something inside Hope Logan will never be the same again.